Welcome visitor, my name is Declan and I'm pleased to offer you the fourth part of the WoW Player's Diary. Summer 280 arrived and life in Azeroth generally took a turn for the better. Mining ore and skinning provided a modest but steady income which I mainly used to upgrade my armor and weapons. I also discovered useful websites like Thoughtbot and Warhead, and my interface was improved with a collection of add-ons with a Core Scalper holding a prime position. Back then, the default UI didn't show targets on a map and quest givers to whom you had to deliver your hard-earned horns to the hooves. And having a better understanding of quest mechanics meant that I no longer had to run from graveyard as often, and each new location I discovered brought a wave of puppy-like delight along with a flurry of print screen captures. My leveling route took me through the locations of Kalimdor with the occasional detours to Eastern Kingdoms, Darkshore, Ashenvale, the Stone, Talon Mountain, and then Desolace, which became one of my favorite spots in the game. Before the Cataclysm, there wasn't an oasis in the middle of Desolace, but there was a Kodos graveyard, the remnants of the Burning Legion, and thorns of Naga along their coastline. The ancient elven ruins were captivating in their regal desolation, and the sea sunset in sandy grey tones often filled me with a quiet melancholy. Yet Desolace had one significant drawback. To complete some quests you had to cross an entire zone, which at the time was no small. You weren't able to buy your first mount until level 40, meaning you had to hoof it everywhere or use the air taxi, which annoyingly didn't fly to the coast. After several months of just questing, I began to feel a bit wary. At the same time, there was a whole other layer of group content I knew about but hadn't yet explored, the 5-person instances, often referred as dungeons or 5 ppl. The automatic group finding system wouldn't appear until patch 3.3 at the middle of the Wrath of the Lich King expansion. Before that, player searches and group formations were done manually via /4 chat channel and the player search window. Those who had been playing for some time also had an established friends list, and to make matters worse, only backgrounds were cross-server. At the time, you had to rely solely on players from your own server. If luck was on your side, you could gather a group within 5-10 minutes. If not, you might not be able to assemble a group at all, especially for big sprawling dungeons like Black Rock Death. Once assembled, the group would have to travel to the location. The air taxi network wasn't that developed then, it was redesigned after the Cataclysm. Flying wasn't available either, you had to travel on foot or by mount. If it was a shorter instances like Numeragan or Uldaman, the journey wouldn't take long, but getting to Maradon often took longer. If someone was already at the summoning stone and could summon the rest of the party, that was great. If not, an often lengthy run was inevitable. So you'd assemble, finally enter the instance and start trekking towards the trash and bosses. It was great if anyone knew the mechanics, but if not, the adventure could drag on. And of course, there were those dreaded corpse runs, then you had to run back from graveyard after the wipe. That was particularly fun to do after wiping in the Black Rock Death, since the closest graveyard was located in the Thorium Brotherhood camp. The real problems took place when someone decided to leave a party in the middle of an instance. It wasn't so bad if it was a damaged dealer, but losing a tank or healer could quickly lead to the group disband. In such cases, you'd start looking for a replacement, and if it all went well, you'd have to run back to the instance entrance to summon the new member of the party. But it wasn't all bad, of course. It was rare for players to be kicked from groups for minor mistakes, and insults were particularly unheard of. The first reaction was always to offer advice, explain tactics, and recommend useful add-ons. Since a trip through the long instances of Old World could easily take an hour and a half, you'd often find yourself actually communicating with your fellow party members. It's no wonder that if people noticed that you knew what you were doing, you'd quickly end up in their friend lists, or they'd end up in yours. Sadly, much of this or the above has vanished from the WoW over the past several years, unless, of course, you are in a guild group or running some Mythic Plus content. The first instance I ever entered was Scarlet Monastery. I still remember the overwhelming feeling of being swarmed by elite mobs and the sheer chaos of it all. The group I was with was friendly, and we chatted about where we were all from and had a quick exchange about the football championship that was happening at the time. The final boss dropped a blue neck piece, and all in all I really enjoyed the activity. It was likely during the run that I was advised to install an add-on that measures threat or aggro. Not damage, but aggro. This was crucial because losing aggro on a boss or trash mob in those days could very easily lead to a group wipe. Instances where the face row experience they are now, where players deck it out in a heirlooms just blast through, barely noticing the difference between trash mobs and bosses. Of course, it wasn't as difficult as raiding, but it was still quite challenging. Moreover, as veterans of the game often point that out, 5 PPL had been nerfed since the original WoW, where they were even harder. In addition to that, vanilla instances had another unique aspect. They were long and confusing. This was partly because some of them were designed for groups of 10 players, like Stratholmer, and each trip was less of a quick run for experience, and more like an hour and a half long adventure. However, sometimes the confusion was extreme, as the case with the Black Robe Death. Players who had a firm grasp of a dungeon were rare, and sometimes when assembling a group there, people would ask how well the person knew Shadow Forge. My second dungeon was Udaman, the ancient bunker of the Titan Keepers, made of much stronger impression than the Scarlet Monastery had. It was from the time that the theme of the Titans cemented itself as one of my favorite aspects of the Warcraft lore. Another detail that made that run memorable was that Iraya was tanked by the Shaman. Long story short, these instances made a lasting impression with the atmosphere, the cooperative gameplay, and of course the looting experience. Somewhere around the end of June I started doing them frequently. Zul'Farrak, Scarlet Monastery, Maradon, the Sunken Temple, Blackrock Death, Daimao, Shawmancer, and Stockholm. This new hobby lasted for almost all of July, and during that time we formed something of a static group of characters from level 40 till 50. We got to know each other, invited each other to parties, and sometimes even chatted in private messages. I even cleared several dungeons with Dima Romil, who had a character on Moonglade. I particularly remember our run through the Sunken Temple, when one of the players dropped out of the group, and while waiting for a replacement we had a bit of disco by turning into naked Fury Draenei. These frequent trips to instances meant that I was geared up mostly in blue items and had become a regular at auction house. And yes, I spent a fair bit of gold even on epics, those coated purple pixels that I usually associated with raiding. People in the who know what to do, advised against buying epics before reaching the level cap, saying that blue items from higher level instances were much better. But I couldn't resist. My most expensive purchase was a Dwarven hand cannon, an epic gun that set me back 400 gold coins, a truly significant amount for me at the time, representing about 2/3 of my total savings. All of that combined probably made the most enjoyable period of my leveling experience before the level cap. Neither before nor since have I had that much fun and those kind of interesting trips. So this is it for today. If you liked the video, thumbs up. If you would like to hear more, sign up and to this channel. And Thank you very much for your attention.